Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Are We Where Yet podcast. These are little bonus episodes that I'm doing called What the Hell's Going On. So this is going to be What the Hell's Going On Part 2, because we live in a different world right now. Things are strange. Things are different. And when I say strange and different, it means it's not what we're used to. It's not the normal day-to-day life. A lot of people haven't been out to a restaurant with their family in quite some time. And some people are actually locked up indoors, constantly quarantining themselves away from society. I know we're lucky. At least I'm lucky. We live in Yuma, so we don't have the same issues as New York. And life is a tad bit different. So I'm just going to do these little bonus episodes about what's going on and interview different people until we get back to some sense of normal, and then I'll continue back with the regularly scheduled program and interviewing people about where we are or where they've been and their journey in life. But right now, I'm doing a podcast, and I'm here with my buddy Jose Coronado.
How you guys doing?
Hey, what's up, Jose? So, give you a little bit of background. If you listen to the last episode, What the Hell's Going On? I kind of freaked out for a little while. I had a little panic attack, and you heard it. And I would talk to my mentor about it. And I did a dive into what is a virus, how does it affect you, stuff like that. And when I was doing my reading, I found out a virus isn't alive, and it isn't dead. So it's this thing, this genetic code, right? And then I wanted to, okay, well, how do you take care of yourself, or what's the best policies? And then you find out, well, hand sanitizer isn't too good because it kills the good bacteria. So you got to be careful. Just wash your hands and don't use the hand sanitizer too much. And so it just kind of sent me off on stuff. The deeper that I dug in the CDC website, it was their immune system. The best thing you could do is take care of, or not to over leverage your immune system. So then I thought, you know what? I'm going to call Jose, because I know Jose has a certain eating practice. You're a man that gives yourself over to studying these things, not just as in a diet, but as in nature. A little bit more than just, okay, you're some health fanatic. You want to go back to, how are we supposed to live as Homo sapiens, as human beings, as part of this earth, right?
Correct. Like my journey with my own health. So I have an avaricious appetite for knowledge. I'm just trying to seek as much knowledge as possible. That's my hobby. So in terms of my health, I wanted to go to the beginning. The way I figured things out was go to the beginning and find out where I deviated, where a change in my diet occurred, and where the symptoms started to occur.
Because you experienced some symptoms, you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, every time you're sick, or every time, when I had issues back in my day, you would go to the doctor and they would just prescribe me medications, and it would just cover the symptoms. It wouldn't really alleviate what was actually ailing me. So I had to figure out, what is actually ailing me? Why is it ailing me? How did it begin? And what could I do to reverse that?
So you're curious, you're inquisitive, it's your body. You want to figure out, okay, why, and why are you only giving me something that deals with the symptoms?
Correct. So, from there, I kind of say that I'm cynical in the sense of, when somebody tells me something, I have to go and prove it. I have to go and study it, research it, so that way I know for sure, I feel comfortable that I was given the best advice. And in most cases, it wasn't that you weren't getting the best advice, you just weren't getting what you needed to know. There weren't, people that would give me advice, like the doctors, weren't doing it maliciously. It's just that's what their practice was telling them to do, but they weren't really telling me the nutritional aspect of it. And so, through my journeys, I just discovered how just eating a natural diet was much more beneficial. And, as we continue with this, we'll delve deeper with that.
Yeah, because like you said, you go to a doctor, they give you whatever prescription that's from a pharmaceutical company. And I'm not trying to damn or dismiss pharmaceutical companies. I'm not trying to get into conspiracy theories. I'm just saying, but that's what the doctors do because that's what they're taught to do. Not maliciously. I love my doctor, but if I go there, that's exactly what he's going to tell me. You know, he's trying to put me on so much medication. He's like, you're going to need these things for the rest of your life.
And there's a lot of people in our population that, resort to these medications as a cure. When in reality, it's not. It just really helps the symptoms, but it's not the necessary cure to get, to where you want to be. And, I don't want to say cure, kind of. I want to take that word out because we're not really creating a cure here. We're creating just something that allows us to help ourselves.
Well, we were talking yesterday. We won't say cure, but your body's looking for this homeostasis.
Correct. And you need to help it. We as humans need to help our body find that homeostasis.
Because your body is always looking for it.
Correct. It's, your body's always repairing itself. It's the most phenomenal machinery that has ever existed. You give it the proper materials, the proper tools, and it's going to start to repair the things that are ailing us. But in most cases, we're using junk materials. We're eating garbage foods that our bodies cannot properly use to heal the things that are ailing us.
Mm-hmm. So in the studies and when I was looking up, so it said, your immune system. Finally, you get down to it. The CDC had to admit in all this paperwork that I was reading, your immune system, that's it. Now, they will tell you most of the stuff was like cough into your arm, wear a mask, stuff like that. But that's how you don't spread it. But I wanted to know how to protect myself. How do I protect myself from this? And then it was your immune system. Well, it almost seems like with the media, nobody's saying that. Nobody's going out there saying like, okay, whatever it is, and I'm not downing people that drink or smoke, but it's like, yeah, you compromise your immune system if you do these things in excess. It is just true. You over leverage your immune system. So when this virus comes looking for a host in a sense, even though it's not alive, it doesn't do that, but we give some words to this. It finds it in people that have over-leveraged immune system or compromised immune systems.
Absolutely. With your diet, if it's not a healthy diet, you're overloading your body. You're creating inflammation in many areas in which inflammation is just your body attacking itself. And in most cases, when it's already weakened by our own immune system, an invader comes in, an intruder comes in that doesn't belong, just makes himself residence. There's nothing there to defeat it. Your immune system is already weakened. It's exhausted. Those troops are spent, that when they need to go to war, they're tired. They can't, muster up the strength to combat whatever invader is coming in. But on the flip side, if you start to take care of those troops, and we're going to start to explain who those troops are within our body, when you start to take care of them and they're strong and they're healthy and that invader comes in, they're much stronger in order to, to be able to help us combat that. Mm-hmm. And in most cases, people don't know that what the food that they're putting in is actually the problem. There is only one intake for us, and that is our mouth. So what we put in there, that is the commencement of everything that could possibly ail us. And in most cases, it just happens to be the food that we eat.
So the food that we eat, and we're used to a certain diet here in America, and I'm not anybody that I'm not being dismissive of that, or I'm not trying to. I'm a product of that. So we're used to a certain diet, and it's almost like nobody's saying take responsibility for your diet, get your immune system, and you're going to be healthy. I just this morning on the radio, I heard that my friend got COVID-19, and he's over in DC. He's a lawyer for the government, and he had like 3 days in bed. He was hurt. He said it was pretty bad, but he got back up and he's fine. And now they're using his plasma to find the antibodies, kind of look at this and study these things. But he's up. He's okay. Like he had a pretty decent immune system, and it was able to do, like, I know him, he takes care of himself and he's living another day. Why aren't people saying that some more? Why isn't that more prevalent? Why do you think that it's not at the forefront of this fight against COVID-19?
To me, that's a hard question to answer because I can't yet pinpoint where, we as a society started to just change our diets. Once more, I'm going to return back to like a natural order in which the way I perceive myself as a human is for eons and eons. Well, not eons, excuse me. I'm just exaggerating there. But, for a good point in our human evolution, we had certain diets. And now all of a sudden, within a span of a few hundred years, our diet has changed from more natural to processed to refined sugars, unhealthy vegetable fats that aren't healthy for our body. And now we see this massive explosion of all these autoimmune diseases, diabetes being one of the most prevalent, in which it's an autoimmune disease where your body is literally attacking itself. It's overproducing too much insulin.
Explain what autoimmune is.
Well, you're overworking your body. Like that immune system is just always going haywire. It feels that it's under attack. And so, it's always overloaded. It starts to, damage organs. It starts to break away tissue, which is just, us as humans destroying ourselves, caused by, what we intake. Now, I want to start to talk about, the things that are actually going to help us. I don't want to talk about, all the bad things that we've done, but what could we do to regain that health? How can we find our homeostatic balance?
Okay.
How can we return back to the healthy states that the human needs to operate in?
Because, and again, I'll just bring it back, because if you do that, and if you do get this COVID-19, your body, the troops are going to be there to help you.
And so just to kind of give you an idea of my path towards discovering this new area of my own exploration is my mother. My mother has Parkinson's disease. Not a beautiful disease. Oh man, it's terrible. And recently we went to go see a new specialist.
You've been her caretaker for quite some time, right?
Yeah, for going on to 3 years.
Okay.
And so we went to go see a specialist up in Phoenix, and there wasn't really nothing that was offered that we could do at this point that would help with her condition, except give her more medication. So we decided to give it a shot. We decided to just up her medication as the doctor's, prescription. And the days following that were some of the most scariest days that I've ever had. The most scariest days.
So you saw your mom is in need, took her to a professional that's supposed to help with these things. They said up her medication. She's taking a certain medication that's supposed to help relieve the symptoms of the Parkinson's. Made it worse.
Made it much, much worse. Much worse beyond my imagination. I thought that I was seeing the last days of my mom, that she wouldn't make it out of that, because it was just, it was a scary scenario. So to me, logically, I just thought, we got to wean her back to her previous,
At least get her back to where it wasn't so bad.
Exactly. Return back to what was better. But during those times, I happened to be reading a book called Brain Maker. I was curious about the foods that we need to eat. And the thing about that book, it really wasn't about, what you eat for the brain. It was mostly about what you eat for your microbes. These microbial friends that we have within us. Bacteria outnumber human cells within our body. If you use that logic, we're a vessel for bacteria. We carry them.
We have more
them.
bacteria than we do have human cells.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. And so I started to read about, how altering your bacterial microbiome within your stomach could affect, Parkinson's. And so once my mom kind of normalized, when we weaned her off of that increase in medication, I started to give her a probiotic diet. Just probiotics. Probiotics as much as I can. After every meal, she would take a little probiotic drink. And within a few days, we started to see noticeable differences in which her energy felt better. She was able to sleep better. The tremors were almost gone. For the medication that she was taking, it was almost extending the effectivity of those medications. They weren't, they were just lasting a lot longer. I was getting more peace within myself because my mother was having better on periods than these off periods that we were experiencing. And that was taxing on everybody.
And you would know, and I just want to bring it up because I had somebody say, like, okay, is he a professional in these subjects? Had he gone to college? Do you have a PhD? Okay, no, but you've been with your mom for 3 years and you've seen a big change. You're like a scientist at home. That's That's proof enough for me right now.
Yeah, and depends on how you perceive knowledge and, education. Like if we are under the perception that an educated person is only a person that comes from school, well, on your own accord, you're not going to ever educate yourself if you're not curious. For me, I'm just that curious human being.
You've read 100 books in 1 year. I've been talking to you for a while. That was your goal, to read 100 books in a year. You did it. Before that, you were into computers. You've always had a thirst and a quest for knowledge. Now it's practical. It's your mom, probiotics. You've seen a change. You told me a story where your father got a phone call. Was it that then she kind of, hey?
Oh, yeah. Recently, I was working out in the backyard and my father was with me, helping clean up the yard. And, our phone, like his phone was inside and it rang. And she came out to give him the phone. And in the rush, she ran. She literally ran to my father, probably 100 feet for him to receive the phone. And I was just astonished. I was flabbergasted because a few weeks back, a month back, I was thinking that, this was what my mom was going to be, when she was in that bad state. I thought that this was the end, that we were starting to see, those next stages. And after a probiotic diet, all of a sudden she's running.
How long? How long between end stages to your mom's running 100 feet?
Oh, it's just been a month.
It's been a month.
In March is when we started to make the adjustments.
Okay. So for people listening, if they want to shut this off, I'm telling them, shut it off. We're just two guys talking, but you're my friend, and I know that you care about your parents. You put your parents or your mom and your dad as well, you said, but your mom had the worst symptoms on this diet, and she's running. To me, that's a great thing, and I want to help be here with you to celebrate that success.
Thank you. Now, the inquisitive thing here is I saw that and I wasn't satisfied. I got to know what is happening, what is changing within her body. And at the same time, my father was also going through that. So I want to know what is changing within his body and what has changed within mine, since we're all essentially on that same diet. And so the more I started to research probiotics, the more I started to understand what they were, the more logically it made sense. We humans are the most complex organisms, or one of the most complex organisms on planet Earth, yet we still need to respect the most minutest organism.
Yeah, because we're way up here that we think that we don't need to, in one sense. We don't pay any mind to it.
We used to marvel as children at these intricate circles of life, these intricate food chains, the water cycles, the life and death cycles. But as an adult, we almost stepped away from those harmonious cycles that Earth is always partaking in every single day.
Where you're a kid, you want to go play in the dirt, right? You get excited if you go find a worm in the dirt, right?
Yeah.
That's it. That's your nature. That's what you do. And then the mom comes in, you're dirty. What's wrong with you? Go take a shower.
And we became, phobic of all these small critters, bacteria, microbes, insects, mushrooms, the fungi that comes out. We became phobic. We became fearful of these things that have always existed with us in harmony. So going back to bacteria, the bacteria that reside within us, within our stomach, within our gut, everywhere, on our skin, on our face, everywhere. Mm-hmm. What do they do for us? What is the benefit of these microbial friends? And so I started to do my research, and I once more came upon this book that I was reading called Brain Maker, in which it kind of outlines what these bacteria do for us. And it was just astonished at how important they are. So I'm going to go through a few examples here of what they do, so that way we could make sense that they are beneficial for us.
And again, we talked a little bit off air. This is just for people to listen to us talk, and then if they want to do some further studying, get online, get a book, just research it yourself. So
yeah, and just allow logic to be your friend. If it makes sense, it makes sense. Mm-hmm. But these bacteria, so step one, I started to see my mom get more color. She started to gain more weight. She looked better. And so what these microbial friends of ours do is they aid in our digestion and absorption of nutrients. They really are the ones who break down a lot of these bigger organic compounds into smaller macronutrients that are accessible to our body. So they help us with that. If we don't have good bacterial system, well, guess what? Now we're experiencing effects like acid reflux. Now you have constipation,
Been there,
diverticulitis, and all these other ailments that are caused because you can't process the foods that you are ingesting.
So you're saying even if I did eat somewhat of a decent diet and I did get like, oh, this has this in it, this has vitamin, blah, blah, blah. But if I don't have the probiotics or the little microbe, whatever you call it, friends, I'm not getting the best bang for my buck out of that nutritional meal.
No. If you ever look into cows, the cows don't eat grass because that's what they want to eat or that's what they need to eat. The cows eat the grass and they're feeding the bacteria that are in their four stomachs and their rumen. And it is those bacterial microbes that are breaking down that grass that gives those cows the strength to be large.
Yeah, because who wants to eat grass?
But if you eliminate the bacteria from there, the cow is going to starve. The cow is going to starve. So how often are we eating a meal in which we're not getting any of the benefactors of that meal because there's not a microbial system within us that could process that food? So, sometimes we eat a big meal, but we're still low energy. Sometimes that's almost everybody I encounter that eats a lot, but they're always low energy. Why?
That would be a symptom of mine. I would go eat and what I've learned is like, okay, food is supposed to be for energy, but then I eat and then I'm tired and then I want to take a nap and wait, why? So you're explaining maybe I don't have those friends that are supposed to do their jobs.
And everybody has them. It's just
to a degree.
How big are these colonies within you?
Okay.
Which ones are flourishing? Are the bad ones flourishing more than the good ones, or are the good ones flourishing more with the bad ones? And if we're having autoimmune diseases, if we have high blood pressure, it might be really, really safe to say that you got a bunch of bad microbes in there. Let's feed them what they need. And we'll keep going on with that. But now I want to go on to the next one. I think the one that is important for everybody to take into consideration of what these bacteria do for us. So they create a physical barrier, against potential invaders. They could range from bad bacteria to your harmful viruses or, parasites. But they are our first responders there. They're that barrier. They're the ones that come in contact with these outside intruders. Now, just like any organism, they're going to fight for resources. They don't want somebody else to come in and take their resources. So they're going to do everything in their power if it's a big and potent colony to combat any outsider.
So these things, when you mention them, you're speaking about them like they're alive, but they are alive.
They
right?
are alive.
So just like how we would want to fight for you're saying they fight for theirs.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. The way I like to see it, and so I'm going to give you a little analogy here. A farmer with his ranch, he needs to protect, his game. Let's, for the sake of this, illustration, he just has some goats and chickens. He's just out there by himself out in the wilderness. And let's just say a coyote comes around and just ravishes those goats. Mm-hmm. Happens to just destroy his livelihood. He doesn't have a symbiotic helper there to benefit him. But now let's give another scenario in which this rancher now has a herd of dogs who are going to be the ones that alert him. He's not part of those dogs, but he has a symbiotic relationship with them in which if he takes care of them, they're eventually going to take care of him.
Because they rely on him for the food and the nutrients
Correct.
And the things that the dogs need. Okay.
Now, at the same time, we do have these dogs within us, but what if ours are very now malnourished? If you have a malnourished pack of dogs, it's going to be a good odd that one of them is going to look at those goats with hungry eyes. It's going to look at those chickens with hungry eyes and start attacking the rancher's livelihood. Mm-hmm. They're going to start attacking your body. So let's say you have a good pack of dogs that they see that coyote coming through. What do? They're going to go and attack them. And as they attack them, they're going to give, that rancher enough time for him to come out here and take care of business if those dogs weren't doing what they're doing. That is, a real simple explanation of what our immune system is. These become our first encounters with, that virus, these bacteria. And if they're unable to do their job, they give time for our immune system to come in. They notify our immune system, and our immune system comes in and takes care of the rest. But if you don't have them at all, that means that the whole burden, the whole onus is on our immune system. And in most cases, by the way we eat, we're already, creating an overactive immune system that's always on edge, attacking us. So once more, as I said at the beginning, a virus comes in, you're already weakened. You don't have the strength to go and attack them. Just like if your dogs were malnourished and a coyote did come in, those dogs are going to be weaker. They may put up a good fight, but they might, not make it out if they don't have the energy to combat, this opponent. So by us understanding and trying to harbor these organisms, we actually protect ourselves and give us more strength. Now let's keep going.
Okay.
Another benefit of these microbial friends is that they act as a detox machine. We hear a lot of people having gluten allergies. We hear a lot of people having, peanut allergies.
And it's very recent that these things have come into the forefront.
Correct. Mm-hmm. And so there might be some toxic organic materials in those foods that we eat. But if we were to have a good set of bacteria in there, they would take out some of that toxicity that might be giving that person those allergies.
Oh, so you're saying that could be present, but if you had the right pharmacological balance within your body, that you shouldn't have the same response that you're having, or you wouldn't have the same response that you're having.
Correct. These bacteria, they neutralize many toxins that are found in our food. And in essence, they could be viewed as our second liver. People already consider our brain, or our stomach, the second brain. It notifies our body of so much. It's always in communication with our body.
I think my stomach is my first brain. Unfortunately, it wakes me up at night and says, "There's Oreos."
Hey, sometimes Oreos are good, man.
Yeah.
They call you.
There's Oreos.
So, if you have a good ecosystem in there, they really are cleansing your body. And now I'm going to go off a little tangent here because I also work with trees. I love to plant trees. I love working with plants. And the same thing happens there. If your soil is dirty, the more you start to incorporate bacterial, microbial life in that soil, it will start to clean itself in order for a plant to be harmonious there and happy and alive. So if the plants require the same thing, we humans require the same thing. We need these microbes within us to help clean ourselves out of those nasty chemicals, compounds that are residing within our foods, the water that we eat, the air that we breathe, within the soil. We need these microbes to break it down. All right. The next thing that these microbes are good for is that they help us produce and release like enzymes and substances that collaborate with our biology.
What's an enzyme?
It could be a neurotransmitter, vitamin, but that's what they do help us produce is, these chemicals that are vitamins and neurotransmitters. They affect our brain. They produce, so here's a kind of I don't want to call it a hypothesis, but we sometimes get these sudden urges for sugar after we haven't had it for a long time, or whatever it is that you might like. Say you stop trying to drink, Coke, and at some point down the line, you get this desperate urge to want it.
If I haven't had an Oreo in 24 hours.
And I'd like to imagine that it is these bacteria that are notifying, that consume those kind of compounds, are notifying our brain that they're hungry. That
I got you. I see what you're saying.
And so that's where these cravings come from. Because on the flip side, I've encountered a lot of people that, were vegan, that altered their diet to be more natural based, and you give them something sweet and they almost want to reject it. You give them a sweet candy. You give them something that they haven't been accustomed to, and their body rejects it. They get an upset stomach, which is those other bacteria are notifying this is not what we want. Mm-hmm. By you introducing this, you're actually harming us, and we're going to notify you by making you feel nauseous. So they really do put us in sync with, say, our cravings or the way we feel, or they actually help produce some serotonin, make us feel good. And they also help control our body's inflammatory pathways. If your body's in harmony, it's not going to have inflammation. If you don't have inflammation, you're not going to have chronic disease.
And that's another big word that you hear a lot right now, or not big word, but a word that you hear a lot, inflammation.
And that's everything. Anytime that you're stressed, you're experiencing inflammation. Inflammation is just your body heating up. It feels like it's under attack. When it's under attack, you feel, you get that fever. It starts to heighten, it's all its immune system all around. And, we're always overworking it. In most cases, it's always with stress. So here now I mentioned stress, but we're going to go to some of the forces that are working against these. Some of the things that we do that destroy our microbiome within us.
So right now, you explained the soldiers, these good things that are happening inside of us that you want to have a balance, and now you're going to take us on a journey of what could disrupt that balance.
Correct. All right. So one of the things that we're always faced with, is that exposure to substances that kill or otherwise change the composition of, our bacterial colonies. And this could include anything from, like, say, environmental chemicals to, certain ingredients in our food that could be sugar, gluten, water. If we're not careful and we're drinking a lot of chlorine in our water, you're killing those microbes inside of your belly.
Because that's what a chlorine is supposed to do,
Correct.
is to kill it. Yeah.
And drugs like antibiotics. Antibiotics are great. I love them, but for when you need them. Many people nowadays will run to antibiotics for anything.
Even a vaccine. Even a virus.
Anything.
Even a virus.
You got the common cold, I'm going to go get some antibiotics.
And it doesn't kill it.
It's destroying your own ecosystem. You're harming yourself. If you've ever noticed, the trend with a friend that might be the germaphobe, always cleaning their hands, trying to be the most cleanest, but unfortunately they tend to be the most illest. They always catching a cold. They always have allergies. It's because they're disrupting, their own microbe system. By being too clean, you're not allowing that microfauna to flourish. You're destroying it. Every opportunity it tries to take root, we destroy it. And so, of course, they're always going to be sick. One of the things that was occurring with my mother prior to this was they would give her antibiotics for everything. She, unfortunately, due to the Parkinsons, has a catheter in place, and every time they replace the catheter, antibiotics. And so she would run her course of antibiotics, but then I would see that she wouldn't want to eat. She was not hungry. Not hungry. I would have to force her to eat. I was like, there would be times where I would be really, really stern with her and be like, Mom, I don't care if you're not hungry. You need to eat this.
You got to eat.
You need to eat this. And I would see that she was becoming more and more frail. Every single time, it was just this odd scenario. So when she would eat, she would get really gaseous. And so she would go to her doctor and ask if they could give her, what's going on with this gas. They would give her another antibiotic on the grounds that she has a bacterial infection in her stomach. And so it was just nonstop cycle as to her microbiome dying. It's trying to flourish, but they keep killing them off, thinking that they're the bad enemies.
They're trying to flourish something she's ingesting. Again, this is the gateway that you say that we have control over to boost or destroy our immune system. They're giving her something that's destroying it.
Correct. And so how's it going to ever recover? And so on that same notion, we got to take into consideration our kids, ourselves. How often are we destroying that microbiota within us with antibiotics? Are we that fearful that anytime we have that cough, we go and we get that antibiotic right away?
And growing up here at in a border town, it was very easy just to go across the border into Mexico to go get the antibiotics. So especially
it was like 10
here,
minutes, you were in and out, and it was just such a common thing.
It was so common. You get a cold, antibiotics. Here we go. It was just that's how we grew up here, right?
And the thing with your antibiotics is really they don't judge. They're going to kill anything good or bad.
It's scorched earth.
Yeah, that's what they're meant to do.
Yeah, and that's when I was reading, and then you come across it later down on the CDC website, and it says, yeah, hand sanitizer is not that good. I'm like, what? People are buying it left and right at stores. You can't get it. People are begging for it. And it's like, yeah, you probably don't want to use that. You just want to wash your hands really good for 20 seconds, and that's it. Because hand sanitizer, again, is a scorched earth, killing the good and the bad. And it doesn't kill a virus because you can't kill a virus because a virus isn't alive or dead. So, sorry.
Yeah, correct. All right. So say our next part of what's working against us is just simply the lack of nutrients that support healthy, diverse tribes of bacteria and instead harbor bad bacteria. That's simple. What we eat is either going to benefit the good bacteria or the bad bacteria. And in most cases, if your diet consists of processed foods, of refined sugars, just bad fats, you're going to harbor bad bacteria.
So what's processed food? When you say that, what do you give me just so when somebody's listening, what are you talking about?
Does it grow from a tree? Does it come from the ground, or is it produced in a factory?
Okay.
If it's produced in a factory, you want to abstain from that. You want it to be as natural as possible. I don't want to get too hippie-ish, but we are from this earth, so we must eat from this earth. And yes, this processed food is from the earth, but they take away so many good nutrients.
By the time it gets to you, it's been refined so much.
And there's so many preservatives in it. God knows what these preservatives do with our body. Only time will tell. And so far, from when I started to see this change in westernized diet and everybody's getting sick, maybe processed foods just isn't good. Are we going to continue to do it? Oh, 100%.
See, here's the thing, right? You see it, right? Diabetes is all over the place, high blood pressure, heart disease, cancer of all different shapes and sizes and forms. It's just, but when I tell these to my friends, or if I say something like this, the number one thing that somebody would want to say to combat what I have to say, correlation is not the same thing as causation. Correlation does not equal causation. You're not a scientist. Stop it. Oh, okay. That's it. It's like, well, these things are rising. There's a trend, and our diet has changed. And I'm saying I'm a product of it. I'm not holier than thou. I'm not, but I'm just trying to put two and two together, like you, as an inquisitive mind.
All right. So as we, start to change our diet with more natural-based foods, our good bacteria are going to flourish, give us energy. It's just an overall win-win. We have the energy. Our body's going to have the tools, the materials to start to repair itself, to start to heal things that were ailing, to start to fix things that were broken. So it just starts with, what you put in and understanding the benefactors of these microbes that exist. So let's talk about how we feed them.
So how do we strengthen the soldiers is what you're going to tell us.
What do we give them?
Yeah, what do we give these guys?
It's just a human diet. You're still going to benefit. I almost feel like when I'm saying that, what do we feed them, that we're going to change our diet and just make a specific, micro food. It's just, we have to use common sense. These natural organisms want to eat the same thing that they would eat in nature that would benefit us all across the board. Mm-hmm. If we start to take care of them, they're going to take care of us. So what do we want to feed them? How do we start? If any of our listeners actually want to know, what could I eat to get this going?
That's exactly what I did when I called you, right?
Yeah.
And then you had you over. It's like, where do I start?
Kept asking for all my products that I buy.
Yeah.
And now I'm afraid of giving that answer out because then it's the shelves are going
to everything goes
be wiped out. I'm like, God dang it, that's what I get.
It's going to be like the
sharing this information.
The TP.
But so how do we start? Well, we want to choose foods that are rich in probiotics that already have bacteria and microbes in them. All these are going to do is when we ingest them, they're going to inoculate our stomach. They're going to start to take residence. They're going to slowly work their way into our intestinal tract and start to take residence there, lining our whole, digestive system to just go to work. That's their purpose. So what do we choose? So one of the first ones that we could do is just live culture yogurts. Now you want to be key to avoid, those yogurts that are full of like added sugar, artificial sweeteners, and then those artificial flavors. Yeah. You want to be key that you are getting something that's healthy. A lot of this product, marketing has been meant to convince us and buy it and think that everything is safe. But a lot of those nutritional labels almost seem to be, deceiving. If you don't know how to read a nutritional label, there is ridiculous amounts of sugar in a lot of these products, even though sometimes the nutritional label shows a small amount.
Yeah, you did mention that. So I told you, it's like, well, I've been taking Activia. As soon as I found out, okay, so I know enough to know about probiotics to an extent. So I started taking the Activia. And you're like, no, it's full of sugar, dude. Like, you got to watch that. You got to look what you're, and it does say take it 2 times a day. And then you go and read. It's like, oh, wow. Yeah, that is a bunch for the what I'm getting. And then you had mentioned a different product to be able to get that does the same thing.
Yeah, just say Greek yogurt, homemade yogurt. But really, anything that really has bacteria, and you'll see a lot of good ones, like I say at Sprouts or Fry's, that have probiotics.
But one of the things that I've been doing again is, and I want to give a shout out to them, Lucha Kombucha. It's a local company here, Lucha Kombucha. You can find them online. I've been doing kombucha. Are you a fan of that at all? Or
I have not actually tried it myself.
No, you haven't tried kombucha.
I've heard good things, and I would like to brew my own. Have my own microorganism there to brew, but I've only heard good things about it. So that's another thing that you would add for probiotics is kombucha. It's amazing. It's amazing. So another thing is kefir, which is the champagne of milk.
The champagne of milk, huh?
It's fermented milk. It has a tangy
that sounds gross.
Taste. Oh man, it might sound gross, but it is delicious. For me, it's delicious. I love it.
Okay, I'm gonna
But it's one of those drinks that just it tastes effervescent, man. It just has this
okay, I'll try it because I tried
tang
kombucha
to it, but it is good.
Okay,
Kefir, something that has been drunk for a long time through our civilization or through human history, that is just, not something that is common here in our Western diet. Pickled fruits and vegetables. The more you pickle, be it kimchi's, pickles, radishes, whatever you could pickle, those are fermented foods. So those also are very, very good. That's a good starting base. Okay, that's just to give you those probiotics. Your other diet, you could still eat your leafy greens, your salads, whatever. All you're doing is really just getting that start with probiotics. You're introducing those microbes to your system by eating these groups of foods. So once more, some yogurt, kefir, kombucha tea, fermented foods like kimchi, sauerkraut, or pickled fruits and vegetables. That's a good way to start. So another way to, feed your microbial friends is you want to go low carb and you want to embrace those high quality fats. And in terms of high quality fats, the best thing would be anything that's rich in omega-3 fatty acids, like fish. Omega-3s are one of the best, essential oils for the brain. So you feed your microbes, but you're also feeding your brain. Another one would be for you to drink wine, tea, coffee, and chocolate. Now, be mindful with some of this because you don't want to be pumping it full of sugar. If you're coffee, you try to do it black. And if you're chocolate, you want to go as dark as possible and eliminate as much sugar. I'm not saying gorge on Hershey, bars. I'm talking about dark organic chocolate.
Yeah, and if in the amount of time I've been doing this with the kombucha and these things, I've kind of, my taste buds have changed to appreciate the kombucha, the dark chocolate, these different, my palate has changed. So I kind of enjoy these things now.
Yeah.
It could be a little daunting in the beginning, but.
Well, like enjoying those things. Is it really you enjoying it, or is it your bacteria that's letting you feel the enjoyment of these foods?
Well, I don't know. I can't talk to them, but hey, that's a good, I see where you're going.
But depending on how your body feels, if your body feels great after, eating some of those things, you'll know. You'll know. If you feel energized and alert, you'll know that they're happy.
So that last night, after you said that again, I went and I got a bottle of wine, and I had some dark chocolate while I was mixing the podcast that I recorded yesterday for the Coffee and the Word podcast. So I sat there and ate some dark chocolate and drank a little glass of wine while I was mixing, and I don't know, I felt good. And you said that it had
polyphenols
and
antioxidants properties.
There you go. So I was enjoying myself, but I was also healing myself.
Of course. What was that great quote that, I believe it was Hippocrates said, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. As you were eating that, you felt amazing. It became your medicine. And of course, our medicine becomes thy food. All right. So what else could we feed our microbes, or what else could we do to protect them? One thing is try to drink filtered water as much as possible. Get away from all those hard chemicals that are in our water, be it tap water, just get a filter. Eliminate the chlorine that might be in it, the fluoride that's in it. Just try to make it as clean as possible.
Fluoride conspiracy theorist or nothing like that, but you're just try to have pure water if you can.
Yeah, our waterways are really polluted, unfortunately. Even things that come from our city pipes, it's not going to be the best, most healthiest things. And so just quite frankly, just filter it.
A simple filter
simple filter.
Okay.
And then another thing that is recommended is to fast. to fast at least once a season. And, you know,
What's a season? So you're talking like winter, spring, summer, fall type of thing?
Yeah, kind of thing.
Okay.
Seasonal, natural seasons. And, you know, just try to keep it simple. Like no food for 24 hours, just water. Just do it one day. You know, by fasting, that has been proven to, you know, increase our insulin sensitivity, reduce our body's overall oxidative stress, you know, trigger the expression of genes that manage our stress and resist disease. And then it switches our body into fat burning modes. And so all of these have been proven to have benefits that help sustain a healthy microbiome. So just fasting, it's just one of those ways to, you know, help kickstart our metabolism and other processes that have gone dormant because we haven't really ever been needing to fast. We're no longer those hunter-gatherers that might go days without eating. We've now just been complacent to eat every single day and sometimes 3 times a day. So it's good for us to every now and then fast. So that way our body could kickstart the reserves and use up the energy that's in there, as well as help that microbiome.
It's like a switch that you would flip.
Yeah.
To kind of turn these things on, some of these processes that have been dormant because we don't live in a society where you need to fast.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's kind of like seeing a race car that's just been in the garage for ages. And, you know, every now and then you just got to run that motor, got to go and step on the gas pedal, let it go breathe. You know, it's nice that it's complacent. They're just a beautiful machine that's just somebody has in their garage, but you got to take it out for a drive every now and then. And the same thing happens to us. We got to work our bodies. Like we got to not consume at least for 24 hours. And we're supercharging that aspect of our body.
Gotcha.
So, as we're getting close to the end, I want to just give a scenario here that might resonate with some of our listeners in regards to what happens from birth to death for somebody that doesn't have microbes. You know, so we're going to create like a little example here of, you know, a baby within his mother. And this mother has high blood pressure, hypertension. She's a high-risk pregnancy, so they're going to offer a cesarean section. This sterile baby that's inside of this womb is going to be cut out of his mother and held in some sterile gloves, you know, washed and cleansed by some doctors, some nurses, and then put into an incubator, probably given an injection for some antibiotics because, you know, he's probably high risk at getting an infection and whatnot. Now, what normally should happen, that baby should have a natural birth. Now, cesarean is great when it's needed in terms of, like, say, a medical emergency in which it's necessary. But now many people opt for it. It's a choice, you know, and most people are actually opting for it because, I mean, I'm not a female, so I don't know if, you know, if it's easier and whatnot, but it sounds like it would be easier. You don't experience so much pain and the recovery is probably better. But by you doing that, now let's try to go back to that natural birth. You know, that baby's going to be born and he's going to have to pass through his mother's vaginal canal. And going through that vaginal canal, he's going to be inoculated with his mother's microbes, his first line of defense. Now he has his mother's microbial life on his body. He should, after that, once he's born, you know, cleansed and whatnot, but then have skin-to-skin contact with his father in order for him to be inoculated by his father's microbial life. And now that child, hopefully, should be able to live a harmonious life. Now let's go to the other baby that was put into an incubator. You know, he got his dose of antibiotics. Now he tries and goes to breastfeed from his mother. He doesn't have the microbes there. His body is on antibiotics. Those microbes are going to die the moment they start to encounter those antibiotics. And so he drinks his mother's breast milk and he's vomiting it. He's colicky. He can't accept it. He's too gassy. And so what do the doctors do? He's rejecting mother's milk, so we're going to give him formula. And from that point, you know, that formula is going to be introducing sugar into this child. And as this child grows up, he's going to suffer from a lot of illnesses. He's going to have, say, chronic infections, ear infections, throat infections, sinus infections, allergies to gluten, to peanuts, to whatever other issues that he might have that is common nowadays that we see with a lot of people. This child, unfortunately, and I don't want to say unfortunately, excuse me, this child, fortunately, is going to live in a time where he has access to the best nutrition ever. But they're going to start to choose the processed foods, those refined sugars and those bad fats that we've been mentioning. That's normally going to be what that child's diet is going to be developing much later. You know, as she gets a little bit older, it's going to be a high chance that that child is going to be pre-diabetic at a young age, 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old. And that child is going to turn to, like, say, a user of electronics and not really do anything within their body. They're not going to be exercising. They don't have the energy to it. They're going to be staying home. As she grows up, that child is now, young adult who's probably going to be taking anti-anxiety medications. They're going to be suffering from behavioral problems, and they're going to be always struggling with work, with school, because of an inability to focus. And so as they continue to age as an adult, now they're going to be a high risk for brain-related conditions, migraines, mood and anxiety disorders, and then other autoimmune disorders such as, like, say, MS, multiple sclerosis. And then when she's older, now they could encounter, diseases like, unfortunately, Parkinsons and Alzheimer's, leading towards dementia. This is a reality in which it starts from the beginning, where we don't introduce the microbiome, the bacteria, those microbes that we need to these infants, to these children at a young age, and we alter their diet into these processed foods, never enriching them with this microbial life that's going to give them the strength to be a healthy human later on. And I don't know what it is where we deviated from our natural path, but it really is us returning to that natural order in which we are part of these circles of life, these webs of life that nature has always been residing in which these bacteria being at the bottom of the food chain helps even the most top organism. And that most top organism helps the bottom of the food chain. So it's a beautiful circle.
It's a symbiotic relationship again.
It's symbiosis.
Symbiosis.
With nature. We've grown our ego to the point where we're not with nature. We're better than nature, superior. That's why we have these phobias of things that we're not part of. I'm not part of this microbial chain. I'm not part of this fungal chain. I'm not part of the animal chain, so they scare me. But we need to return back to that. We need to be harmonious and work with nature, because if we take care of nature, nature simply takes care of us.
And I know we're just talking, but also the fact that we use in our language that we're separate from nature.
Yeah.
We are nature. One of my favorite speakers, philosophers, whatever you want to call them, Alan Watts, he says that the earth is the type of organism that grows humans.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that makes more sense. And he was like, we always feel like we have to control nature. And it becomes hostile to us because we view it as hostile. And so then we're just like in a tug of war with nature. Nature wants to grow us. There is supposed to be this symbiotic relationship with it. But then somebody could say, well, what about the rattlesnake down by the river right now? And it's coming after me. And like people would use all kinds of illustrations to say, no, it's harmful. And the bacterias, and look at this vaccine. What do you say to them?
To, like, say the person that, I'm going to go to your rattlesnake and just use that as an example. What happened when we took the wolves out of Yosemite or Yellowstone, one of those parks? When we took the wolves out, the whole ecosystem just started to go haywire. There was just too many deer, and those deers were not letting the forest grow. They were eating all the saplings. It ran amok. But then you introduced that organism back into the play, and things just started to find its balance. There was some, I don't recall what countries, maybe it was India, in which there was a lot of cobras. So some government official, and I'm just kind of guessing here, but somebody put a bounty on cobras. Mm-hmm. So people just start killing cobras. Guess what? Now there's a rat infestation. Now these rats what are they doing? They're eating your crops. It doesn't matter if you're scared of these animals. You got to understand them. You got to respect them. You got to know what their purpose is. Every creature here has a purpose within this cycle of life. What is it? If they're a predator, they're there to help number down the pests. We can't be fearful of nature. We must understand her and work with her. That is how we return back to, normalcy, to our health, to our own well-being, to, where we eliminate anxiety, depression, stress, where we start to eliminate the questions as to what is my purpose. Your purpose is to be a caretaker of nature, to live off of her, to nurture her, because that's all she's going to do for you. Life stimulates life. If you take care of that life that's inside of your belly, it's going to give you life.
You know, and you're saying inside and outside. A good illustration, and anybody can go look on the internet and read about it, but Mao Zedong, I don't know how to pronounce that correctly, Mao Zedong, he ordered all the sparrows to be killed. They're eating too much grain. He didn't like the sparrows. He didn't like the bird crap everywhere, and it caused one of the worst environmental disasters in history, because he had the power. He didn't like it, and then they're getting swarmed by these bugs. It just threw off the balance, and so now we need the sparrows back. Now we see the value of what these things that we thought we could lord over and can control. We need some more of those. So basically, I think that's what we do. We think we can control nature. We can avert something. We could mess with it. But you're saying, no, let's be one with it. Let's learn from it and figure out what our place is and what their place is.
Well, Mother Nature is the best teacher. And I'm trying to be a straight A student, man. Like, I'm trying to learn as much as I can. Every time Mother Nature every day that I'm out there with Mother Nature, she's teaching me something. And every time I come over here to try to learn something from anybody, I'm not trying to, belittle, people and their knowledge, but a lot of the people that I look for information, like say Newswise, or I go on YouTube or Facebook, these are people that are disconnected with nature. They're not learning from her. And when they're trying to teach me something, it almost seems that they're trying to convince me or sell me of their idea. They're not honest. They're not pure with their intentions. Whereas if you're outside with Mother Nature and just observing what she's teaching us, mm-hmm. those are truths. Those are purities. Those are real answers.
So you're saying for these people that would want to discredit whatever you're saying or whatever I'm saying, it's like you could just go outside and observe.
Mm-hmm. All you got to do in most cases, those people that I want to discredit are the ones who are far disconnected.
And I know you. Like I said, I've seen that you started with a tree. You started with some compost,
and I'm going to work towards a food forest.
And you started with these things, and you started to see this natural reaction that life was giving to life, and what every part of it played.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the funniest things about me is I used to love to go hiking, all throughout Phoenix and whatnot. And I would be the one that would be trying to poke hole, a stick in a hole just to see an animal. I wanted to see what's in there. I was always looking for the snake. I was always looking for the lizard. I was always looking for the critter. But it was a rarity to find them. I was always hearing stories of friends that would go hiking and, they ran across a rattlesnake. I was like, God dang it, why not me? And so here, working within my backyard, I've just had wildlife always visiting. Just wildlife, birds of many varieties. I've had red-tailed hawks just chilling out in my backyard. And it's why? Because I'm stimulating life there. And life is going to find its, wherever there's sanctuary.
Yeah, life finds itself.
Yeah. But how many people are not living? They're not harmonious with their own earth, with their own presence on this natural system of things.
And here we go, because it's right now, people are being forced into their houses, shut up, away from the vitamin D, away from the sun. When I talked to a guy that studies pathogens and these different things, and would talk to him about the virus, and I said, I heard the heat kills it. That's like 135, and it doesn't kill it; it destroys it because it can't die. But he said, well, no, that's not really the way it works in your body, because one, you can't get 130. What happens is that it's not like you could put somebody in a 65-degree room and another person in a 120-degree room, and this thing's going to be dealt with. What happens is the person that's outside in the sun, being active, being present within that nature, they are going to have a better experience versus the person that's 65 degrees inside of their house, cold. And so I'm like, wait a minute, but they're telling everybody to stay inside. They're telling everybody to use a bunch of hand sanitizer, and this is going to make it worse. What happens when they step outside of their house?
You know, like when this first started to occur here in Yuma, you know, like that first week where things were just hectic. And I went to the grocery store. You know, I was avoiding the grocery store out of my own stress because I didn't want to walk in there and have the shelves empty and feel helpless.
Yeah.
You know, that was just a fear that I did not want at that point in time. But I went, and what I found empty was all the processed foods. I found the freezer section empty. You know, I found all the junk, all the sugar cereal, everything empty. But the produce was all there. The probiotics I sought were all there. You know, all the things that I needed to keep me healthy was all there. So I wonder, like, you know, these people that are going to go inside and be inactive, weakening their immune system with garbage food, when they step back into the world later on, are they going to be susceptible to a, you know, resurgence of another infection? And I don't know. I'm just creating a hypothetical there.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm not, with talking about probiotics and our microbes here, like, I'm not giving you the way to be a chess grandmaster. What I'm providing you is just some techniques that would work better in your favor.
Yeah,
increasing the odds in your favor. And you do not want to go blind because, unfortunately, many people don't know. Like, this is a game of chess, a metaphorical game of chess that we are facing at this moment. You know, and we're facing a grand opponent. What could we do to better the odds in our favor?
And that's it. And that's why I wanted to have you on this podcast, because I called you as soon as I started to do some research, and I said, hey, Jose would know about this. And so I offered you a place on my podcast because there's people that listen, and to give them a better advantage. And if they want to listen, they listen. They don't want to listen, that's okay. Everything's all right. But like you said, you went to the stores, processed food is gone, all the vegetables, everything that's there that the CDC will tell you is better for you and give you a better advantage was all sitting right there, and you got to reap everybody else's ignorance, basically.
Absolutely. You know, I felt good. You
got to get it and do what you had to do because you know I'm going to be okay. And when it was even interesting when I first, again, reached out to you, how are you doing? Great. I'm doing great. Like, what do you mean you're doing great when all this is going on? Why are you doing great? You know, it's like, we need to have a conversation, and we did. And hopefully people could listen to this and maybe just do their own research and to see, hey, what is he talking about? What is this role that I play within nature, within the larger scheme of things? Maybe I should pay attention to the smaller things, which is very Taoist, which I like the Tao. It says, pay attention to the small before it gets big. And that's what you're saying. The same thing that the Tao Te Ching would say, pay attention to the small before it gets big. Pay attention to the little microbes, these little things inside of you, and then it doesn't become a cancer, an infectious disease, like that. It doesn't exacerbate into something that almost uncontrollable, where you're going to have to flood your body with the antibiotics or the radiation or you name it, because we're not supposed to be there. We're not supposed to be in that situation. We're supposed to be the kids playing in the dirt the whole time.
We got to be natural organisms. We are natural organisms. We gotta realign ourselves with the natural order that has always been existing, that affects every other organism around us.
And do you believe if we respect that natural order that we will be okay?
Well, it depends on how we perceive what okay means. But we will be much better off if everybody started to realign themselves with the natural order. If everybody started to plant, you know, some gardens in their backyard and creating life in their backyard, they're going to eliminate a lot of the stressors of where's my food going to come.
And that is a stress, you know? And that makes your
if they have their
cortisol go up
food in their backyard and they're sustaining themselves with a little garden, they're saving economically speaking because they're not spending their money at the grocery store. So now that money becomes more of a profit, if you will, in which now they could use it for other things to promote their own growth. But once more, like, to me, it just continues. Life stimulates life. By me stimulating that growth, I'm stimulating my growth, and that growth just stimulates all around me. It's nonstop. That is the natural order. It takes one tree to start a forest. It takes just one thing to start growing in order for it to expand outwards.
Yeah. So, here we are. We find ourselves in a very peculiar place as a society. This virus that's not even alive is affecting our economy, affecting relationship, resources. It's affecting so many things. And a lot of it has to do with the lack of understanding of who we are and what our place is in the grand scheme of things. We're not nature. We're better than nature. That's the ego.
That's the ego.
That's
what got us sick. That's what got us into this rock and a hard place.
That's what gets us here, and it just continues to push us and gets us worse and worse. Where if you can go look on the CDC's website, it says the best thing is a healthy immune system. Everybody that's dying from it is immunocompromised. There's something else. The virus goes in and looks for the compromise. It's doing its job, I guess, in one way that you could say it's doing what a virus does, checking for this. But if you're healthy, you take care of yourself, you're going to be okay.
You'll better your odds.
You'll better your odds.
Your odds. You'll put it towards your favor. So as we're getting closer to the end, for the listeners that made it through to the end, I just want to give you a quote here, and it says, "What you eat in private, you wear in public." So for those who are going to tell me that you're going to do your best job, that you are doing everything in your power to take care of yourself, you're eating healthy, we know it's easy to tell when you're misleading. It's easy to tell because your body doesn't lie. Your energy levels don't lie. When your body will tell us that there's an imbalance. Be true to yourself. If you continue to eat the garbage within the privacy of your own home, you're only hurting yourself, nobody else. Well, in a sense, yes, you will be hurting other people, but you're only really hurting yourself, and that is just you doing that action, not anybody else. We can't lay the onus on another person saying that this is what my husband cooked, this is what my wife cooked, this is what the kids like to eat. We need to understand the balance within our biological beings. It needs a specific diet that is healthy, that stimulates this microbial life, that helps feed us, that's going to give us our health and well-being, what everybody seeks.
Feed those soldiers.
Everybody wants to be healthy and happy. That is human life. How do we get it? Eat healthy. Be happy.
But sometimes Wiener Schnitzel or these other restaurants, these fast food places, they make you happy, but temporarily, right?
Yes. All right. You're just getting your drug fix. You're just getting your drug fix. It makes you temporarily happy, but then you got to go back at it again, because how long does that happiness reside? It don't last. How long does that little energy spurt reside? It don't last. So you got to go get your fix again. You're killing yourself by eating.
Or you want to take a nap.
It's slow. All right, man. I got to get going, but I just want people to kind of put this into perspective. If diabetes was promoted and people were dying as fast as this coronavirus, we would be out on the streets telling these sugar companies and these processed food companies that they got to shut down, because that is happening to us on a rapid scale in which people are dying from diabetes. But it's such a slow disease that we've accepted it as normal.
Ooh, because it's
such a slow disease that we said, it's okay, I'm taking my insulin.
Because you can take a shot and feel okay.
But you are literally slowly killing yourself. And if we were to find out, and using order of elimination, what thing within our food, what thing within the things that we ingest does not belong in our biological body, and you find what that thing is, you would want all these companies to remove it. If you guys are curious, do your research on the bad sides of sugar. It's in everything. We could keep going. Sugar could be for a whole nother podcast. But here, I just want people to know, you take care of your microbial friends, they're going to take care of you. You eat from nature and what nature wants us to eat. She's going to take care of you. She's going to help you find your homeostatic balance. Now, for some people that are already ailing, this is not once more a cure, but it could help mediate a lot of those ailments that you're experiencing. And what's the worst that can happen from you eating a healthy diet? It's a gamble that everybody must take. And it's not literally a gamble. It's just one of those things that everybody must do, so that way they could understand what it is to eat natural, be part of nature.
Appreciate you, man. I know you got to get going. I'm just going to end it with one thing. I believe it's so we did diet today, but it's not just diet. It's a diet. It's mental, physical, spiritual. It's all these things that I believe that you have to encompass and to have that homeostasis, because you're one being. So you can't just focus on one thing, even though we did through this podcast, but we're just giving some information for people for one aspect of it. But you also got to take care of your mental state, because if you fear, which is what we would say maybe a spiritual or mental thing, that your cortisol, these things happen, it knocks things out of balance, out of that harmony. So this is just one aspect. Thank you guys. If you made it this far, we appreciate it. Those that shut it off because, hey, he's not a doctor, whatever, hey, maybe you'll turn it back on later if things don't work out for you. Thank you to Red Moon Ale House for letting us have the studio here. My brand new studio for the Are We Where Yet podcast is at Red Moon Ale House. They are doing delivery and to-go orders right now. The chef here is a vegan, so if you want a vegan option, ask him for the vegan options. He has some great options. So, and you can contact them at 928-276-9111 and get a to-go or delivery order in these strange times that we live in. All right. Thank you guys for listening. Until next time.
Peace out, guys.
Bye.